He pulled his .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol from his bag and fired on the officers.
Right now, a shooting outside the Empire State Building. A former employee with a workplace grudge turned deadly. We're going to have the latest from the scene. And next.
No one's ever asked to see my birth certificate. They know that this is the place.
Mitt Romney's birther joke, funny or over the line? Didn't this man say he wanted to focus on substance? And later.
This is a very sad day in sports.
Enough is enough. That's what Lance Armstrong said after years of battling charges that he was doping during his unprecedented string of 7 straight Tour de France wins. Was Armstrong the victim of a witch hunt, as he claims? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in again tonight for Richard French. Want to thank you so much for joining us on this Friday evening, August the 24th. Well, you probably know by now the sound of gunfire piercing Midtown Manhattan's busy morning commute today. When it was all over, the gunman was dead, as well as one other person. The shootout took place in front of one of the city's most iconic landmarks, the Empire State Building. FiOS 1 News reporter Tamani Wooley is in first position tonight. She joins us from Midtown with the very latest. Tamani?
Good evening, Andrew. As you can see here behind me, the intersection at 35th and 5th Avenue has finally opened after being closed for most of the day due to the police investigation surrounding this shooting. They opened the roads just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. But residents here, workers, and eyewitnesses are still reeling after witnessing a tragedy.
And I heard multiple gunshots. I'd say about 12 of them.
George King witnessed firsthand the chaotic scene on the streets of Midtown Manhattan this morning after a gunman opened fire near the Empire State Building.
Everybody started running for cover, along with me. The girl that was running next to me fell down to the pavement, and when I looked at her, I could see that she had been hit in the leg. She was bleeding from the leg.
Police and emergency workers descended on the intersection of 33rd Street and 5th Avenue after investigators say 53-year-old Jeffrey Johnson shot and killed his former manager, identified as 41-year-old Stephen Ercolino, with a .45 caliber handgun in front of Hazan Imports at 10 West 33rd Street just after 9 a.m. Johnson had been laid off from the woman's apparel shop last year.
A construction worker who had followed Johnson from West 33rd Street alerted 2 uniformed police officers who were on post in front of the Empire State Buildings.
They had approached, the guy pulled a gun and tried to shoot the cops and kill the cops, and the cops returned fire.
Shooting and killing Johnson. Witnesses say it was pandemonium as a barrage of bullets ensued.
There was like 3 to 4 people on the floor, and they was taking them to the ambulance, the police, and they was sealing up the block.
And everybody was running, and cops were whizzing by.
9 innocent bystanders were injured in the hail of bullets. Police say they're recovering at 2 local hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. FBI officials have downloaded cell phone pictures and video from witnesses of the grisly crime scene as the investigation continues. And Andrew, there's still a bit of a police presence here as police continue their investigation. Investigators are asking anyone with information regarding this tragic shooting to call 311. Reporting in Midtown Manhattan, I'm Tamani Wooley. Andrew, back to you.
All right, Tamani, thanks very much. Obviously, if we get any updates throughout the course of the hour, we'll bring them to you. And for the very latest, stay with FiOS 1 News throughout the course of the night. Want to bring in tonight's panel on this. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Bill O'Reilly, GOP media consultant who has worked on a number of campaigns. And TJ McCormack, a conservative radio talk show host. And guys, first question, when you heard about everything that happened this morning, and obviously you hear Empire State Building and you think something worse than just an individual shooting, but fortunately it was, well, it is what it is. But your reactions when you heard about what happened this morning?
That's exactly right. You hear Empire State Building and you stop and you freeze. I mean, New York will never be the same after the World Trade Center. But, you know, will people just stop shooting each other? My God, like every week we have another shooting story. It's just a big shooting story, and there seemed to be a lot of bullets in the air today. I think the mayor did a good job in reacting. I think he was good in one of his, just as a communications person, one of his statements was, even in the safest city in America, these things happen. And he did get out the point that New York is a relatively safe city, but these things happen, sadly.
Hey, you know, it was typical New York, too. It happened, they addressed it, they dealt with it, and New Yorkers have, you know, they remained calm and they've carried on, you know. My first thought, my gut went, odd place, well, not necessarily odd, but I heard about it, tourist spot. I walk past that almost every time I'm in the city, and my first thought was kids. For some whatever, I right away said, "Oh my God, I hope there's no kids. I hope there's no little children." That's just where my initial gut instinct.
Turns out it was a 53-year-old disgruntled former employee. Dominic, your thoughts?
You know, tragically, this could possibly be seen as a sign of the times that we live in as far as the economy. A distraught man, we don't know all the details as of yet, distraught about losing his job for whatever psychiatric reason, he decides to gun down his former boss. But it's a tribute to the excellent job that the NYPD does each and every day. When you consider what could have happened at that intersection, we all know it. We've all been there a million times. That's right. There are always a lot of people there. You had a lot of people that were wounded, stray bullets, innocent bystanders, but it could have been a lot worse. And some of those that have been injured could have been fatally shot, and thank God they were not. So,
you know, it's for me, it was. We hear about shootings, we report about shootings all the time. Some seedy neighborhoods. This is middle of Midtown Manhattan, right by the Empire State Building. I mean, it can happen anywhere.
And just to go what Dominic said, I mean, if the NYPD knows how to do one thing well, it's converge. I mean, when there's an incident, they converge.
Yeah, and you heard also multiple stories of civilians standing there, one guy keeping one person calm, another person who actually, a construction worker, actually calmly followed the shooter apparently and tipped off cop. So New York at its best, usually at those worst moments.
And it bears repeating what Dominic said. Hats off to the NYPD. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the politics and the policy surrounding a story like today's. Does America have a gun problem? The U.S. has the most guns per capita, more than any other country in the world. Could fewer available guns maybe have helped avoid tragedies like the one we saw today? Guns are next. Stay with us.